Right, so I've seen this story out of the National Post, and I thought I had to make a video about it. And um, it's titled "Canada has broken, say majority of Canadians in poll taken in wake of rail blockades." The poll spells bad news for Trudeau, with the majority of people believing the country is not headed in the right direction. The PM is not governing well. Now, they have a handful of polls that they took here that I will go over, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Um, so the first one is Canada is not headed in the right, or Canada is not headed in the right. I mean, I assume the question was, is Canada headed in the right direction or wrong direction? 59% said wrong direction. Um, is this Trudeau government governing well or not well? Not well, 63%. Support for Justin Trudeau, 64% don't support. And then here's the right direction, wrong direction one. Wrong direction, 55%. So these numbers aren't glaring, like it isn't like 75, 80%. But the thing that I always point out when you hear these kind of polls, whether it's in the States or whether it's in Canada, you have to factor in the media and the college, the public school bias into things. Now, I know a lot of people probably would scoff at that, but it's a real thing. And not only that, you literally have major mainstream media outlets in the States, namely CNN and ABC, admitting that they're biased against Trump. And CNN literally said that we're more biased against Trump than Fox is for Trump. So all the people saying, "Oh, Fox is just as biased for Trump." No, 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 no. CNN literally said we're more biased against them than Fox is in favor of him. So please don't make that argument. And again, I'm not even as much of a supporter of Fox. I think they have a couple decent hosts, but other than that, yeah, I mean, Fox even has some decent moderate um, hosts too, but that's another thing I don't want to get into. In Canada, the media is all biased to the left. CBC incredibly biased to the left. CTV fairly biased to the left. Global, I would say, just biased to the left. There's no honest mainstream media outlets in Canada. They don't exist. And the thing I want to point out in these polls is that if we were given an honest representation of things, these numbers would be a lot higher. Justin Trudeau's disapproval rating, my guess would be in the mid 20s. Because at this point, literally the only people that have a reason to support him are the third world immigrants that want to bring in all their family members to get the free healthcare and the welfare, and the people dependent on the free healthcare and the welfare. Those are the only people that have a reason to support Justin Trudeau, and that's a pretty decent percent of the population. But a lot of those people still the perceived negative or outweighs the benefits, right? Like if you're some terribly unhealthy person that having taxpayer funded healthcare would really benefit you, it still may hurt you if your job is more free market oriented. So that's kind of the trade off. But like I said, I wanted to make this video because it's very telling, and especially of the pro Trudeau people, the anti Trudeau people can talk about this kind of stuff. Now, I don't want this to come off as, like I said, when I always talk about this stuff, I don't want it to be just hating on Trudeau all the time, or people trying to make the your bias claim. Like I always mention, didn't vote conservative last election, wouldn't vote conservative next election if it was tomorrow or next week. So trying to make though you're just bias card or play, it doesn't hold any water because I don't even support the other side. Um, I would support the other side if they had some honest, decent policies to run on, but they don't. And that's kind of the reality of things. But anyway, let's just click on it here to enlarge it just for sake of the video. Um, it's very telling that some of these numbers are kind of surprising because these kind of numbers are all these questions are all pretty much the same, but yet you have almost 10% difference between the don't support and wrong direction. So it kind of surprises me that people can answer that differently. But anyway, but like I say, I wanted to make a video about this because you have a lot of the Trudeau supporters that vehemently still think he's doing a good job, but yet they literally have nothing to support to back that, like literally nothing. And the surprising thing is how I mean, if the election was tomorrow, I'd really like to see how it played out because Justin Trudeau was, I think, at a pretty low point for popularity even going into the election. But since then, i- I'd be shocked if that number hasn't dropped. I don't know what the exact numbers were going in, But again, the problem with the polls is that they're oftentimes biased, or at the very least, they're just polled wrong. They'll poll them in a way that comes off as not representing the actual population. So you got to be a little skeptical of the polls. But my guess is that his approval rating is even less, and which is probably why they're not thinking of an election anytime soon. My guess is they'll probably just wait it out. I mean, they know that with immigration so high, that's helping them. The mainstream media is always going to back them up no matter what, and they'll just wait it out because they know the conservatives are so weak right now that they don't got much to worry about in that aspect. So, um, but I'm not going to talk about the whole political strategy again. I don't want to speculate. It seems like a lot of the things they do are very unpredictable even for them. But to bring the video full circle, the Trudeau government, like I always mention too, like if you still support them, if you're someone out there that still supports them, like please, like write, like what would it take for you to change your mind? Like that's the one thing that you always have to ask people when it comes to politics, especially when they disagree with you. You'd have to ask them, well, what would it take for you to change your mind on the topic? And if they give you an honest answer, oftentimes it's already happened. Like for me with gun control, I always do that, and people tell me literally exactly what happened, you know, and like I just point out the sheer rank, the fact that they clearly haven't thought things through. But anyway, like I said, that's a good thing to bring up too. Ask people, well, what would it take for you to not support them? Now, the problem is that most of those people support them just based off the fact that they think if the conservatives get in, they're going to have massive cuts to healthcare and education and spending and all this kind of stuff. Even though cuts in healthcare and spending and education are going to come at one point or the other. Like that's the thing that people they just can't seem to wrap their heads around. Partially because they're so selfish that those kind of people that are so concerned about those cuts generally it benefits them, and partially, like I say, they're just not smart enough to think in the big picture in the long term. Because in the long term, the government, at the provincial level, at the federal level, both, spending a lot more money than we have. And what happens when you spend more money than you have over and over and over and over again? Eventually, it blows up in your face. Eventually, the interest catches up with you. And if you're going to argue with me against that number, well, why not go into more debt? Why not just give everybody $10,000? Why not give everybody $100,000 a year? But if debt isn't something we have to worry about, then why not go into more? It makes zero sense from a logical perspective. But anyway, um, I've talked about a lot of topics. I just wanted to make a video about this because a lot of people out there are wondering, well, how are people still supporting Trudeau? And even though these are decent numbers, like still 36% of people support him. And the other thing too I wanted to point out too is that Trump's approval rating is actually at an all-time high. I think it's about 47%. And like I say too, the mainstream media completely biased against Trump. If they were honest, he'd be at probably 50, 55. And that would be pretty much all-time highs. And Trump's approval rating is still more than 10% above Justin Trudeau, even though he's got the media completely biased against him, and vice versa for Trudeau. Like, that is just how bad Trudeau is. And like I say, I don't want it to come off too much as a Trudeau hating video, but too many people still support the guy. Like, if 90% of people disapproved of him, I wouldn't be making videos about it. But the fact that so many people still support him, I got to make videos about it. That's what I always say. Once people finally wake up and realize the truth on these issues, I'll stop talking about it. I know I make videos on similar topics, but like I said, the minute the overwhelming majority of people wake up to the truth, I will stop immediately. But anyway, I think I've talked enough. I'll leave it there. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal link in the description, and I have an email address for e-transfer. I'd appreciate any donations. But at the very least, hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos.